Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Gareth Tidball. Gareth, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ken?
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for being here. This is such an honor for me.
Oh,
But before, Gareth, we talk about why you're here, I would like for people to get to know you a little bit better first. Gareth is an award-winning actress and screenwriter, which alone right there is super awesome. You know, the fact that you're a Jill of all trades, so to speak. Um, but you are more attracted to the macabre. You typically play young, tough women with a strong sense of justice and an air of quiet mystery. You first made waves in the indie film scene with your performance in the hard-hitting thriller My Autopsy, which is how I actually found out about you, which is super amazing. I can't recommend it enough, and it is available on Amazon Prime. You've also made appearances in several feature films, the wacky horror comedy Obstacle Corpse, which I think is just the coolest name of all time.
it really is.
The neo-noir horror Casting Kill, and then the epic horror anthology Return to the Theater of Terror. And now, before we get into what you have coming up, what's it like? I mean, like I said, you're a screenwriter and you're an actress. Which one of those, how did you get started in both of those things?
Well, in terms of being an actress, I started out very young doing plays. So I'm a theater kid at heart. I loved doing all the school shows. I was in all the talent shows. I was, a big stage nerd from the time I was little, 4, 5, 6. My parents had a hard time with me when I was young because I had too much energy. So they thought, okay, well, we should put her in a theater camp. That's the best thing to do. And I don't know if they regret that or not, because now I've stuck with it. And I did. And then I did all the shows in high school as well. I got really into Shakespeare. We'd always do a Shakespeare show every year in high school. And then, I decided this is my favorite thing to do. I always loved telling stories and playing characters, and it was just felt natural to me. So so then I went to school for drama, and I studied at NYU. And then, in terms of screenwriting, I didn't really get into that until very, very recently. I always enjoyed writing, but I didn't feel like I had the confidence for it, I guess. But then when lockdown hit in 2020, my really good friend Amna and I thought of an idea for a screenplay. And we wrote characters for ourselves that we really wanted to play. And that turned into our feature-length thriller screenplay, which is called House of Red Doors, which we're currently still working on in some sense. We've got it down to like a pretty good draft, but we've already submitted it to a couple of festivals and things and gotten some really great feedback. So but at heart, I am an actress first and a screenwriter as maybe a second hobby.
Well, think about it. I mean, if the fact that screenwriting is your second hobby, it shows how great you are at what you do. So, and what I love about this is you talk about being a theater kid, and people are like, oh, well, acting is acting. And to me, I've always compared it to being a musician. Sure, acting is acting, but they're two completely different things. Like, to me, making a movie is like when you're recording a record. Like, you're putting all this time in and people aren't seeing it right away, but you're behind the scenes, you're doing all this hard work and creating this piece of art that you're so excited to show the world. And then later down the road, it gets to be shown to the world and you get to go out and watch that reception. But being a theater actor is like playing a show. You're getting that instant gratification of watching the people right in front of you, whether they love you or hate you, and they're throwing tomatoes or throwing roses. You get everything all right there instantly. So I can definitely see how there are similarities. And I know that there are some people that prefer the theater. There are some people that prefer the screen. So you're getting your arm chopped off if you don't answer. If you had to choose, you could only do theater or only do film. Which one would you choose?
Oh no, that's the worst question ever. Don't make me choose. Oh man, well that's the thing, is that there are things that I love about both the stage and the screen that make them so distinct about why I love them so much. I mean, obviously, like you say, being on stage is it's such an adrenaline rush because it's all live. You can't have another take. You can't say to the director, sorry, can I try that again? You know, it's like, it's one and done. And there's a real aliveness to it that me being slightly an adrenaline junkie, I really love. But then I say in terms of screen acting, there's definitely an intimacy that you don't quite get with theater a lot of the time. I'd say screen acting for me is all about containment. And for me, it's more challenging in that way. It's a challenge that I love because I'm very extroverted. I'm a big person, and having to like contain all of that and it being about what you're not showing and what you're not
Sure.
telling the audience is what makes that really, really fun and fascinating for me. But, you know, I mean, in both settings, you know, if you've got a great scene partner, if you've got a great story, if you, you know, are obsessed with your character and the story that you're telling, it doesn't matter for me. You know, it's all about going on that journey and playing with your scene partners. That really makes it unlike anything else and what makes me love it so much.
Well, your passion and your energy is definitely infectious. So it's amazing to meet someone that's that energetic. Because I'm the same way. I'm a huge extrovert. Like, I want everybody to see me all the time. Like, look at me, look at me. That's me. That's totally me all the time. So
yeah. And I bet it can get exhausting for people, but the people that can be around me are like, you're great.
I agree. Those 4 people are awesome. I like them too.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we know that what you've been doing, but coming up, you do have you're leading the cast of Foxglove Candy, which is a female-driven thriller. I've always loved thriller and horror movies because you go back to even, you know, Black Christmas, 1974. The way that story is told from a female's perspective is so amazing, and you have these women. Like, there's a scene in the movie where she's like, I'm pregnant, I'm going to get an abortion. And the guy's like, you're not getting an abortion. You didn't even talk to me. And she's like, I don't have to talk to you. You can't tell me what I can and can't do. And horror has always been ahead of the curve on social issues. And like back in 1974, you know, even Halloween 1978, you have The Final Girl, these girls that are standing up to men and kicking their asses and showing that women are not just boobies on the screen for 10 minutes. You know, it's an amazing way that horror and thrillers have always had that passion to make that happen. And to see that you're going to be leading a cast, and like you said, you've always played that role of the young tough woman, and to me that's inspiring. So one thing you guys can do so you can stay up to date on everything Gareth has coming up in the future is you can follow her on social media, and all those links are right down here in the description, as well as the Amazon Prime link for My Autopsy. So make sure you're following her on social media, make sure you're checking out the film. And Gareth, we know what you're doing in the future, and we know what you're doing right now, but here for a little bit, love, I would like to take it back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, and boy, do I love this movie. Gareth, your first horror movie was?
It was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which I'm glad it was that, because I have so much to say about this movie.
Oh, I think that I've talked about this a lot, and I disappeared. I love this movie. I think that, in my opinion, this was really one of the starters of the slasher genre. I always go back to Psycho and Black Christmas are really what started the slasher genre, and we wouldn't have the slasher genre were it not for these films. But do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
So yeah, I was around 12, and I remember this because I had just started to get into my goth phase around this time. I just entered middle school, and I was like, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to give myself a new identity because I'm going to new school. And I was like just getting into like Tim Burton, and like I was listening to, I don't know, like My Chemical Romance, and I was going down this path and committing to it, you know. And I think my parents picked up on that, and I was like, you know, I was just trying to figure out like what was going on with me and the world and everything like that. So I was getting into like dark stuff, and I was telling my mom, like, I think if this acting thing doesn't work out, I think I might want to be like a mortician, you know? And it was like all this weird stuff was happening. And to try and like indulge that in a healthy way, my mom was like, oh, well, have you ever heard of Alfred Hitchcock? And I hadn't. And so she props to her, she showed me Psycho, and I just totally fell in love. And then I remember after that we wanted to watch all of the Hitchcock films together. So I think after that was Vertigo, and then North by Northwest, and like all the big ones. So yeah, props to Mom for being able to feed my my weird obsession with dark stuff.
And I love how you're like, it's not a phase, Mom. God.
Yeah, right. I actually
too.
Yep. I actually had a black t-shirt that had writing on it that just said, it's not a phase. Yeah, I know.
So awesome. Like I was there too, you know, like I was told that was me, you know.
Yep.
I love the fact that your mom showed you this, and starting off with Hitchcock, like such a thriller way to start. Like, and he's so everybody talks about Psycho and The Birds, but like you said, Vertigo, Rope, like these other movies that are so amazing that Hitchcock has done. So we know that you watched it with your mom for the first time, which again, props to Mom. Which scene, this is a movie that's full of iconic scenes that are still getting, you know, taken advantage of today. I mean, that's how important this movie is. You wouldn't have Scream without this movie, and if you didn't have Scream, you wouldn't have so many different things without this movie. So which scene would you say it was that affected you the most from Psycho?
Well, yeah, like you say, it's so difficult to choose because there are definitely specific scenes that have gone down in history as like, you know, legendary scenes. There's obviously the big twist reveal at the end of, you know, what's really going on with Mother. But I think because of the time, I was really getting interested in acting. I was just really blown away with Anthony Perkins' performance. And I think the first scene that he has where he invites Marion into the hotel and sits her down and, you know, gives her a sandwich, and they just have that scene of dialogue. You just like the character work in that from his side of it, and hers too. I mean, she's incredible. But I don't know. I think as a 12-year-old girl, I was like sort of in love with him, but also like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. Like there's something really off about him, and you know it. Like it's just like this innate sense when you watch him speak. It's like I don't know, like you feel bad for him because he's obviously a recluse and he's really socially awkward, but he's somehow super charming at the same time. And then, you know, when they start talking about his mother and like, well, maybe she should be put somewhere, then he just, you know, he totally flips a switch on her. And that, like, you know, I just, again, like doing theater and getting really into like scene work and the way that the dialogue is written in that and the subtlety of his performance, switching over into kind of that guy, you know, it's just, I just loved it. And I was like, oh man. And it really got me hooked to the rest of the film, you know, because I wanted to see what this guy's deal was. Obviously it wasn't going to be good, but you know, I think so, it must've been that scene for me.
Well, and he delivers one of the best lines of dialogue throughout the whole movie here.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's one of those lines that is just so iconic in the horror world now that it's beautifully, and like you said, I think this may be one of my favorite scenes in the whole film. Just because, like you said, it's the acting, the drinking from the saucer cup, and like just the intensity of this scene. Like with saying very little, they're doing so much throughout this scene. So I completely agree with you there. And that kind of leads me into my next question. We know which scene affected you the most, but what would you say your favorite scene from Psycho is?
Oh, that's difficult. I mean, you can't go wrong with the shower scene, can you? I mean, just like I love, well, throughout the whole movie, the soundtrack is just fucking epic. Like it's so good. Like I rewatched it earlier today just to make sure that I like was refreshing my memory. And even the opening credits, it's like it's like, oh man, we are strapped into the seats on this roller coaster, you know, like Hitchcock does not pull any punches. So obviously, yeah, the classic shower murder scene, you know, seeing the silhouette behind the shower curtain, and then all of those like really quick stabby jump cuts. It's just, you know, with the strings and everything, it's just great. Yeah. And then another thing, remembering from the first time I watched it when I was 12, it got me really into like studying how that scene was made too. So I remember looking it up, and I think I came across on YouTube some sort of interview with Janet Leigh where she said the shot where I'm laying on the bathroom floor and they're zooming out on my eyeball was so difficult because I couldn't blink that whole time.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you know, and then I think this may be true or not, but I do also remember at the time looking up the fact that they used, you know, where they have the blood going down the drain, they actually used chocolate syrup for that instead of actual blood, because it was in black and white, and the brown syrup actually showed up better on the screen than fake blood did. So like just getting all of those like behind the scenes facts made it really memorable for me this time watching it, because I was thinking like, oh yeah, nerdy 12-year-old Gareth, like looking up all the like filmmaking hacks.
Yes.
So yeah, it just
in every
like
black and white zombie movie we made in high school, it was always chocolate syrup was the blood, because it looks that consistency. It's thick, like totally, absolutely. I could totally see that.
yeah. So yeah, shower scene for the win. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of bleeds into the next question that I have, ironically enough. The kills are few and far between in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Like there's not very many of them. They don't need to rely on that. And my next question was, what kill is your favorite kill throughout the movie? And would that be the shower scene to you?
Oh yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah, because I think the only other kill that we see is the detective, right?
I love that when they're, you know, he's going down the stairs. Like I
Yeah.
love that whole scene. Like it looks so beautiful to me. Like he gets the cut on his face and you see him going down. Like I just think that whole scene is cut so well.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, both of them are great. It's hard to choose. Yeah. I don't know. Do I have to choose
We'll
between
just leave it at
two?
both.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? They did do a Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn, and everybody shits on it, which I don't understand because it's essentially the exact same movie, scene by scene. But would you like to see them attempt a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho today with a little bit of modernization? Is that something you would like to see?
That's tough. I actually haven't seen the Vince Vaughn remake. It's been on my list for a while, remake. But huh?
Oh, the only difference is the actors, and it's in color. Like it's literally scene by scene, shot by shot, exact remake of the original.
Really? Huh.
And people are like,
oh, interesting.
People are like that move. People are like that remake sucks. I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, sure, I can give you like, you know, Vince Vaughn is no Anthony Perkins. Like, I can totally give you that, and I respect that. But to say the movie's bad, like it's exactly the same thing. Like, and that's what I don't like about it. Is if you're gonna redo it, give me something new. You know, like take that original idea, flip it on its head, and give me something new. Like if you've seen the original, you've seen the remake just in black and white. Like the remakes in color, that's the only difference.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'd love to, like you say, I think there would have to be some sort of originality to, if they made a remake, they'd have to maybe set it in the present day and I don't know, switch up something. Now you've got my mind going. I'm gonna have to think about this, but yeah, I'd definitely be open to seeing a remake for sure. And just seeing what they do with it, you know. At the same time though, it's like you have to make it separate enough so that you're not, I don't know, you're not just rehashing something. It's got to be a reimagining rather than a remake, if that makes sense.
Right. No, yeah. I think those are my favorite types of remakes. My favorite types of remakes are like Child's Play 2019, Evil Dead 2013, where they take that original idea, but they completely make it their own. Like I've already seen the
Yeah.
original. I don't have to watch it again, but take
Yeah.
what they did and modernize it and make it your own. Like that to me is the best thing you can do with a remake.
Totally.
What?
Yeah. One of my favorite, well, I guess it's not even I don't know if people would consider it a remake, but one of my favorite 80s horror movies of all time is The Fly by David Cronenberg. And that is technically, I would say, a remake because they did, you know, there was that 1950s Fly with Vincent Price. And like they're completely different movies, you know, they're both great, but like they're really like the concept of the thread of the concept is like the only thing that's similar. I mean, you know, lots of things are kind of spun on its head in the Cronenberg. That really makes it like people don't even remember that it was an original film, you know, that Vincent Price did. So yeah.
Well, and you got like just like The Thing, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing is the same way. And I agree with you. I think that's the best. So Gareth, we've talked about your first horror movie being Psycho and what that means to you. But now I want to throw you a little bit of a curveball here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Gareth? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh man. Oh, that's so difficult. The Fly is definitely up there, man. Like again, like, and The Thing, you just talked about The Thing as well. The Thing kind of started me off because I only saw that back in, no, I think it was 2018 when I first saw The Thing, which is, I guess, a little bit late in the game for me. And I still kind of consider myself like a horror nerd newbie in a lot of ways. But oh, man, yeah, I think it would have to be The Fly. Jeff Goldblum again, got a major crush on him. And yeah, right, who doesn't? Like he's just such a legend. But again, I love him and Gina Davis's scenes. And it doesn't have to be a lot, you know, it just has to be their like the genuineness of their relationship and how their love develops, and then her witnessing him kind of deteriorate into this monster is just so heartbreaking. Yeah, it is a love story.
Such a good love story. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you. Like we did our top 10 horror couples, and that was on my list. Like, you know, Seth Brundle, like that was such a great love story wrapped up in a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like it's such, and it's funny because me and my wife, I'm definitely like the lovey-dovey one, like when it comes to movies, and she's more of like the gore horror. Like I'm not too gory of a person. I want a good love story. Like The Night House, I think is fantastic. Have you seen The Night House yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you gotta check it out. Like it's so good. I'll send you a link once we're done here. But you gotta talk about a great horror love story. The Night House is one of the best horror love stories I've ever seen in my life. Like it's gonna keep you but you gotta promise me you won't look up anything about it. You gotta go into the movie blind. Like the ending will blow your mind if you go into this movie blind. I'll tell you that. So
okay, great. I love a good recommendation, so thank you.
Yes. No, anytime. So we've talked about your first horror movie being Psycho and your favorite horror movie being The Fly, a movie that I love very, very much. And Gareth, I appreciate you coming on here so much. But before I let you go, we always have one last question. What we're going to do now is we're going to bounce back to Psycho. And what we're going to do is we're going to rank this movie on a skull count. Now, here's the rub. We're not ranking this movie on acting, production, perfect score, or anything like that. What we're doing here is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. So Gareth, what would your ranking of Alfred Hitchcock Psycho be?
Ooh, it's definitely got to be at least 4. I'm going to give it 4.5 skulls because I love the idea of a skull being cut in half. But I'm also like, nothing's ever perfect. So
see,
I think,
you know what, that's why I do it on how it affected you, because I agree with you. Like I think like everybody's like Psycho. I'm like, listen, it's a very good movie, it's not perfect. Like I hate, and I've gone on record saying this, I hate how easily they're able to get Norman and just get him down. Like that to me is the weakest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like there are definitely problems with this movie, but I 4.5 is still great. And I agree. I give this, there's two movies I think are very close to perfect in the horror genre, and that's Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are the closest movies to perfect horror movies I've ever seen. And if you take out that dumb fucking blow up doll and that ridiculous Freddy car at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street, it may be the perfect movie in my opinion. But 4.5 skulls is still a very good rating. Now, I do want to remind everybody, not only are all of Gareth's social media links down in the description, but so is the Amazon Prime link for her film. So make sure you're checking that stuff out right now. Gareth, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.